watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.
Tensions in the Middle East can move global markets, and when energy prices shift, small businesses often feel through higher costs and tighter margins is often the case. For companies that depend on transportation, shipping, or fuel, even modest changes in oil prices can affect operations and consumer behavior. Joining us today is Parag Amin. He's a business expert and an attorney who works closely with entrepreneurs and companies navigating real-world business challenges. Parag, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. You're just the guy that we need to settle our concerns about what's happening right now in the Middle East. Maybe you can do that today on today's show. But when tensions rise in the Middle East like this, and oil markets tend to react quickly, from a business perspective, what's usually the first ripple effect small and mid-sized businesses feel?
Unfortunately, the first ripple effect is to their top and bottom lines. Unfortunately, what happens is when the price of oil goes up, it's not just the price of gasoline for our vehicles. Oil is in all kinds of items that many of us don't realize. So it's transportation that goes up, the cost of energy goes up, the cost of shipping goes up. And unfortunately, for a lot of small to mid-sized businesses, they're not hedged the same way that large businesses are. Right. And so those who are familiar with unfamiliar with hedging, the whole idea is that large companies, all companies, in fact, can buy these hedges, but it tends to be expensive. So it tends to only be the largest of companies that then create bets against the rising or falling prices of oil and the rising and falling costs of fuel and other things that can lower somebody's margins. And unfortunately, small to mid-sized businesses just usually aren't sophisticated enough or well off enough to do those things. And so they tend to be hit the hardest.
Yeah. Parag, what does this do to something like consumer sentiment out there? Do people tend to pull back spending when they see instability overseas?
Absolutely. When anybody feels instability, it's an aspect of human nature to sort of close up and clam up. And that's what we see. And unfortunately, that creates a ripple effect where people tend to spend less. They want to save more just in case prices astronomically increase and they need to be able to afford food or other things for family. And so you've got a situation where the economy heavily relies on people spending money, consumer sentiment being positive, and people being willing to spend. And so when people tighten up like this, it's a double whammy, not just with higher prices with things like fuel, transportation, and other things, but also revenue decreasing as a result of people clamming up and not being willing to spend the same amount of money.
Yeah, very, very good point. Based on what we're seeing right now, what should businesses realistically expect in the weeks ahead?
Well, realistically, in the weeks ahead, we're going to be seeing somewhat higher prices. We're already seeing a few percentage point increases in the overall cost of gasoline as well as oil. Right now, luckily, oil is below $100 a barrel, relatively significantly below $100 a barrel. And that tends to be the area where people become a lot more sensitive. As it pushes closer to $100 a barrel, we start to see prices exponentially start to increase for all kinds of things. And so from a perspective of what we can expect in the short term, unfortunately, because of the uncertainty, we are going to be looking at higher prices because uncertainty in production and in deliveries tends to make it so that the people controlling the oil tend to charge a little bit more because they don't want to risk making less money in this kind of uncertain environment.
Sure. That's even on the supplies that are currently in the U.S. Just the announcement of the war. When that broke, we saw oil prices, I should say gas prices, jump at the pump immediately, right?
That's right, because you've got to remember that the area of conflict and the countries involved in this conflict with Iran produce a lot of the world's oil. And then you have the Strait of Hormuz right off the coast of Iran, where much of the world's oil has to be shipped through. And so because that is a conflict area, it is very much more difficult to be able to transport oil through there. And so you've got producers looking at that and saying, look, we're going to be increasing prices. And it's a game of supply and demand. So whenever supply decreases, the demand is relatively going to be about the same when it comes to oil because it is difficult for us to be able to adjust very quickly. Again, oil is in so many things, everything from not just our cars, but the clothes we wear to even medicine. There's byproducts from oil that are used for these things. And so because it is so ubiquitous, it becomes very, very challenging to find an alternative source quickly when things like this happen.
Sure, sure. For small businesses that rely heavily on transportation or shipping, how can they manage potentially higher fuel and operating costs?
Unfortunately, the reality is they're going to have to find somewhere else to be able to cut. I mean, sure, it's nice to think that maybe they can find some more effective or efficient way to ship products, and maybe they can source products closer to where they're located. But based on the way the global economy operates, that is very difficult in the short term. So I think the best bet for business owners is to look at other areas where they may be able to save so that they can hedge for the increasing prices as it comes to purchasing products as well as transportation and energy.
Sure. For business owners watching these developments, what's the one thing that they should be paying attention to so they're prepared rather than reacting later?
Well, they should be focusing on their businesses. Look, I mean, when it comes to macroeconomic uncertainty, it'll always be there.
Yeah.
And the reality is very few of us can control what the macroeconomic environment is.
Right.
And so I would tell the business owner, look, focus on your business, focus on helping it thrive, focus on finding more customers and growing your business and scaling it while these economic uncertainties continue in the broader macroeconomic environment.
Sure. What do you say to the entrepreneur out there that was just ready to jump in and open up their own business? Maybe they're even going to leave a job to do that, or maybe they've left a job maybe through retirement or layoffs or what have you, and they say, hey, I want to run out and I want to open up that business that I've always dreamt of. Do you think it's okay that they do that now, or should they take a wait and see?
It depends on the area of business that somebody's planning on starting. I mean, certainly, you know, with every crisis or challenge comes an equal or bigger opportunity. But what's often not said about that is it really depends on what that opportunity or business is going to be.
Sure.
I mean, certain businesses will certainly thrive in more challenging economic environments and do better, but others may not be. And so I think it depends on a combination of factors, such as how much money does somebody have stored or saved up to be able to take this leap, and can they go out into a challenging, uncertain economic environment where it may be harder to get business, especially as a new business owner in that environment, so that they can continue to withstand what it's going to take to make that business successful.
Yeah, very good point. Parag, great perspective. Thanks so much for helping us unpack all of this and figure this out for business owners out there today. It's a difficult situation, but thank you so much for helping us sort this out. Appreciate it.
My pleasure and privilege. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.